And I really like this, how we work is the work. I think that really stays with me. And a little bit I want to speak about that. My name is Lavrenty, and I co-founded with other people in 2017 this NGO. It wasn't an NGO when we started. It was very decentralized, very anarchic. We never wanted to become one, and you'll see a bit later why we did in 2022. And we actively work at supporting grassroots projects globally through art-based practices. And we've become now a decentralized collective, and we have a three-part mission: freedom of movement, mobility, plus creative sanctuaries, residency equals this transcultural collective. So this is basically guest, host, reciprocity idea, right? And the two of them create collectives that are different, that are not mediated by the identities that we are born with or that are constructed over time. And so this transcultural it's a bit of a loaded term. It's been used in many different ways, but it is far better than international. And one of the ways, right, the theory of change is extremely important, and the most basic way that I could present this is to empower artists as translators and mediators to lead projects towards the relief of suffering. It's not, it's far more broader than that, but this is the most basic way that I can do it. But before I get into what we are doing, we need to kind of go back in time into a different locality. This is Shanti Niketan. Shanti means peace. Niketan is the abode, so this is a town called Peace. You can see it right there where the flare is. It's in West Bengal, India, right on the border or near the border with Bangladesh. And this is important for us because one of our key missions, this transcultural mission, is really to push back against nation state and borders, right, as much as possible, and to create alternatives, which is why creative sanctuaries, residencies are so vital, because if somebody moves, if someone is enabled to have freedom of movement, where do they go, right? And they need a place to land as well. So these nests, so this is the original nest. And this, as far as towns go, this town is rather artificial. What I mean by that is that it was founded rather than kind of happened organically, and it was founded by Rabindranath Tagore in 1904 after he won the Nobel Prize for Literature as a poet. He was the first person out of Asia to win a Nobel Prize, and he used that money towards creating this pedagogic experiment, with just a handful of students. He was also a painter, a songwriter. He has a whole genre named after him, many other things. And so the thing about this experiment was that he invited people from across the world, right? From the Western world or the global North, as well as from South America, from China, from Japan. People came from all over the world. This is 120 years back, and came together to create a very different kind of environment where we could all learn from each other, right? And even you can see this is one of the buildings at the university that then this small experiment became this very large university, and I studied there. And you can see even by the architecture, the influence in this architecture. It's Japanese, Chinese, as well as Italian, as well as Indian. And so it was this kind of mismatch or like mix or medley of things, right? So why am I speaking about Rabindranath Tagore, and 120 years ago and so forth? And there are three reasons. The first one is the definition of what we consider to be an artist, right? I think here, and over a long time, we've had this idea of an artist as a very individualized person. But Tagore, yes, he's a painter, a musician, and so forth, but also an organizer, also a teacher, also a political activist, right? Also somebody that attempted to create alternative ways of being. And this is a definition of an artist that we want to keep closer as we try to find ways of being practical in the world. And the definition of an artist goes far beyond just the art that they make. Artisans, right? Gardeners, martial artists, right? When we start to think of art is a creative process. Rabindranath Tagore was really has been seen as a spiritual figure in the West as well, quite unfairly in many ways in his time, because there was a real romanticizing. But art is always spiritual as well. It's always a creative force, right? Second, resonance and the responsibility for the resonance. So this resonance that when this school started, it was I think 6 students. Nobody knew what was going to happen, right? So whenever we do any kind of project, whenever we do anything practical, there is this resonance into the unknown future. And even if it's not going to be a sustainable project, even if you're just going in for a month, it's extremely important to keep that responsibility close. And the way that you do that, as I'll be speaking about after this, is through being quite clear about your theory of change. I think that is vital whenever you step out of the theoretical and into the practical, because you never know what it's going to lead to. Even a small work here can have a lasting impact. I've seen it many times. And finally, this Transcultural collective. For me, this example out of West Bengal of inviting people from across the world is important, because I know that we have, and rightly so, a lot of reservations about going somewhere, about appropriating or pushing our ideologies onto places and cultures and communities. It's also important to recognize that communities also invite people. The communities also want people, obviously, when they make that step. And also that even if we are not going, there are many things that are going there. The hegemonic powers are very present everywhere in the hardest to reach communities, right? Advertisement is there. All right, and so fast forward 2017, this is a quintessential origin story of any grassroots project, basically crowdfunded, and we made this money, and this actually started as a response to a protest, and we felt very unsafe as a collective, as a group. We were all studying or somehow connected to this place, Shantiniketan. There were people from all over the world, as well as people from Shantiniketan, from India, and from Bangladesh, which is important because the border is very complicated, right, between India and Bangladesh. And so we crowdfunded this, and we were able with this money to firstly renovate an abandoned house. This was the idea to begin with, just to have a space for ourselves to create, to be creative, right? And then we were able to run this residency for, this is how it looked once after renovation, we were able to run this for almost 3 years on that money. So with $2,500, we were able to not only restore a house that's been abandoned and that is still used today, but to continue projects, festivals, things like this. This is a Bengali New Year that's only celebrated this way in Bangladesh, so we were kind of bringing it back to West Bengal, which was on the other side of the divide. And the only way that this is possible when you have this little money to work with is that you have to actively work with the community. Right, and that's the difference. It's a difference between coming into somewhere and having all these economic resources. Right, it's so easy to have an impact without working with the community, and then feel good about it, certainly. But what is the lasting relationship? Well, if you don't really have the resources, you rely completely on the community. Right. 2020, things changed, the pandemic, and we decentralized. We realized that the collective can exist without a space, without a home. That the homes are transient. That land is transient. That you can come and go between land, but community can really stay. And because we had all of these links to communities across the world, to people who have communities across the world, we all do. We recognized that decentralizing is really a very good way of continuing our work. So since then, these are the places where we have been working. I cannot get into all of these examples, but I can say that all of these were done on shoestring budgets with a few intentions. I will show you why, but we'll look at 3 in order to just get a better idea. First is this empowerment of the artist. This is Mettabi from Istanbul. We were working together on some art project, I don't remember what, when the earthquakes hit. And obviously, they called us and said, I don't want to do anything, I don't know what to do. We decided to, some of the funding that we had, we decided to send to them. It was $1,000. With $1,000, they were able to, at first they were very uncertain, but then they were able to come up with a plan, create a learning center for children who have been orphaned or who've been displaced due to the earthquake. And they were able to run this. They were able to then find more money to run this. And up till today, they found a building, and it continues to be a school and a library as well. This is in Sri Lanka. We renovated that house. It's a school, as well as a garden, as well as a clinic. This is Sajid's place. He's a wonderful teacher. We renovated the roof. We basically put a new roof on. We built a well, a plumbing, electricity, everything basically. It was an 80-year-old ruin. 750 euros. 3 months of work. Okay, the only way this worked is that the whole community pitched in, and the only way that this could work is that when we were there, we started to, like mycelium, we started to find connections, find ways to co-work, and recognizing through the practice that any other way of doing this, it's not about what funding you have or don't, is not recognizing where you are, the economy that you're participating in. So when we talk about redistribution of wealth, it's also very important to recognize what the economy where you are working, how do you relate to it, right? And are you really in touch with what is on the ground? So that's after it's been built, Freedom Gallery, this is one a music workshop, and that's some community that's there. And let's take a more difficult example. This is a Rohingya camp in Bangladesh, Myanmar border. This is one of the largest camps, refugee camps in the world. Over 1 million people live under these conditions. And we also enabled an artist to go there. I'm not going to mention that artist, the person that was working there. Suffice to say that they had experience working in the camps before. And in fact, the experience that they had was an unsuccessful one. And that was very important to us because we recognize that means that they've already been there, they've already seen the faults, the mistakes, and so forth. And therefore, that's why you send back again to see if it's possible. The entire project, okay, so we funded $1,500 and $1,500 was matched by another NGO. And that basically, if you look at the permissions here, the project needs FD7 approval from Dhaka, you need CIC, assessment permissions, you need refugee relief permissions, and this is just the permissions. That alone is more than $3,000, right? And the realization that all of these money that go into all these places, they go nowhere. And the reason that it's this way is not that it's so bureaucratic, is because, as it says there, the Bangladesh government has worked to segregate the community from the outside world. Right. So here, there is no allowance for education. There's no allowance for work. The people have just been left completely to basically with no option whatsoever. They're not officially even allowed to leave the camp, right? And they've been there now for 8 years. So what does an artist do with that? They find underground ways to get into the camp. They build relationships. They find creative ways. Artists are anyway used to having no money. So they find creative ways to make sure. And finally, the money that we did raise, that we did fund, it ended up going exactly to the people that you see here in the picture. We decided that the best way to make a change is really, we are going to do the workshops and we're going to pay people to attend the workshops, right? The final slide. So the question is, how are artists as translators and mediators empowered through redistribution of wealth, but also other ways to lead projects towards the relief of suffering? This translation, art, we always say, is a language that everyone can speak. The moment you do translation, you're doing mediation, right? The moment that you're translating, you're finding a common ground, finding a common way, right? And this is where this sort of transcultural ethic comes in as an idea. Our theory of change is constantly changing because it's co-authored by the artists that we work with. Redistribution of wealth is the #1 thing that we can do if we have access to wealth here. It's much better to empower somebody else to make the decision of how to do the work, right? In their communities and the people that they are aware of, rather than say what it is. But what we can do is the unequal exchange that has made the situation this way, we can try to at least a little bit. And then finally, doing more with less, or this active fragility, is not to deprive the artist, but to act in fair relation to the economic realities of the communities that we co-create with. And so finally, the role of art, in my opinion, in Degrowth is not auxiliary, is not an instrument or a tool that we can use towards some other goal. It can be completely central. It can be, it can be truly the change makers, are themselves practitioners, and should be empowered in this way. Thank you.
We go on. Yes? Yes, amazing. With Anna. Anna? Double
Anna.
Anna.
Double A. Yeah, Anna.
Do you need me to do something with the slides?
The name is the same backwards and forwards. That's so-called timing.
Let's get going to work.